where do you get your ideas? That's a classic. Where did you get your ideas? You know, people ask. But I mean, do you real life, or just you're sitting there staring at a tree and you see an ant on it and you think of some story? Where do these ideas come from?
I don't know. No, really, I don't know. I mean,
No,
just sometimes
no,
I just.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, again, that's a legitimate answer, sir.
Yeah.
Maybe just come from life. I mean, any one of you sitting here can walk down the street and look at something and be moved by it. You know, and anything that touches you, or makes you laugh, or makes you cry. If you feel the need to explore it. I know Scared to Death, which led to the lodge. That came about because one night I was in bed. It was about 2 or 3 in the morning, and I heard this sound. I live in an apartment, by the way, and I didn't lock my door except with that little eye hook lock. And I heard the sound of 2 knives scraping together out in my front room. And I did what you're not supposed to do. I stood up in bed and I listened again, and I heard those knives again. And I said, "Get the f out of our house! Get out of our house!" I just screamed it out loud. You're not supposed to do that. But I was so scared, I just reacted. Of course, my husband, who's sleeping right there, he jumps up and he starts screaming too. I'm like, "There's somebody in our front room." So
Poor Neil.
he heard that sound also, and we were petrified. We thought somebody was in the house. And of course, you know, apartment here in Columbus, door open, hello. You just invite anybody in. So, you know, we acted like we had a gun. We were doing that whole dialogue like, "We have a gun and we're calling the cops," and, you know, we're saying all this stuff. And we walked out into the front room and we checked the doors. Both doors were open. And we kept saying to each other, "Did you lock it? Did you lock it?" No. It was one of those hot summer nights and we just didn't lock it. So we thought somebody was there until we realized nobody was in the apartment, but there was I had bought for his birthday a grill, like a barbecue grill. We were trying to put it together before we went to bed, and all that hardware was sitting on the floor, and it just started like falling. We have a cat, and the cat was crawling on the grill parts, and so it was making that sound that knives or metal makes when they scrape together. That's all it was. But I was like, oh, you know, I was so petrified. I thought, what if? And that's what happens with me when I start writing a screenplay. What if there was a person? What if that happened? What would we do? How to react? What's our game plan? And Scared to Death was born out of that one night. So, I mean, it can be any stupid thing that happens to you, you know, or beautiful thing that happens to you, or a crushing, heartfelt thing that happens in your life. If you lose somebody or lose, you know, an animal or, you know, anything, just, I don't know. It's what moves people to write.
So Andy, I mean, you got, I mean, like some script that, say, not Mikhail's name, something original that you wrote. Where did that idea spring from?
You know, it usually starts out as something else and turns into what you end up writing. But I think it's being aware as a writer of when you see things occur in your daily life, you know, would this translate into a movie? Instead of just letting the moment pass by, in terms of, you know, it could just be a simple line of dialogue, like, "Hey, that was pretty funny, that'd be great in a script," and you jot it down. I mean, I have sometimes woken up at like 3 in the morning from a dream and thought, that is a great idea for a movie, and I jot it down on a piece of paper and go back to sleep, and in the morning I wake up and I look at it and it's like, you know, a weatherman finds 3 bagels and, you know, and decides to conquer Europe, you know, and it's like, what?
I love it. I've got $1
you had it
million
all
in my
written down.
pocket.
Sleep.
It was great at 3 in the
Yeah.
morning.
So Bill?
I felt like, well, I think it just comes from, you know, pieces of things that you put together, sort of. At least with me, it's like I can't remember even what network I was watching. You know, National Geographic or something, but they were talking about this stolen painting, and it was like, you know, it's talking about the guy painting the thing in the 1700s, and then it's talking about the robbery, which was a bunch of guys with Uzis and ski masks going into a big art museum. Everybody get on the floor, and it just, to me, it's like, what a weird contrast or dichotomy to this little guy painting this little painting back, you know, 300, 400 years ago, and guys with Uzis and ski masks. So this was just a while back, and I've started writing this thing that's not quite formulated yet, but it's like 3 stories. One about a painting, one about the robbery of the painting, and one about the recovery of it, you know, after it's been stolen and lost years later. And it's just how these 3 stories come together. Which is just, you know, it's like that I get ideas like that where you know there's something there, but you don't know what it is yet. Right. So I'm still in that stage of what is it there?
The discovery phase.
What is it that's there? Yeah.
Cool.
I had an idea. When I was a teenager, my grandfather had Alzheimer's. They didn't call it Alzheimer's back then. They just said he was nuts. But he had to go into a nursing home. One day I get a call from some gas station in Elizabeth, New Jersey. It says, hey, there's this old man in his pajamas walking around the street here, and he says this is his phone number. We don't know what's going on here. Apparently, he just walked out the front door of this home and walked like 3 miles in his pajamas and slippers and a catheter, no less. And he just remembered our phone number because it had been a number that he had known for 30 years. So I told him, well, you need to call this home and have them come get him. But I thought, well, wouldn't that be interesting, an idea for a movie? What if someone kind of walked out who was a little senile from a nursing home and was mistaken for somebody else and was treated completely differently because they thought he was someone else and he didn't know who he was because he had Alzheimer's? That'd be kind of an interesting premise for a movie. So I developed a whole story based on that. And I ended up pitching it around. And people liked it. It never did sell. But,
Okay.
Ideas like
Do you
that.
find that you have chronic pieces of ideas? Like sometimes I'll start writing something or start trying to formulate something, and it just doesn't work, and I give up. And then down the road, I'll start on some other idea, and I'll realize that that thing was a piece of it. That like, oh wait, that's where that guy comes from. And suddenly it's like things just kind of aggregate over the years or over the months because something you discarded, you suddenly realize what your reason was for thinking it up in the first place.
I have certain scenes that are in about 6 different scripts because the first script didn't sell, but I loved the scene, so I just moved it to the next script.
Did you just copy and paste it and change the names?
Sometimes you change the name, sometimes you just keep it word for word.